John, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody? I'm sure most people know you already, but go ahead. Tell us what lodge you're from and so forth while we're kind of killing time here.
Well, I'm a member of a number of Masonic units in the UK and Europe, and in fact, I've been through 26 different chairs.
Oh wow! No, thanks. Cool. Brother Ade, good to see you as well, my Canadian brother.
Yeah, good to see you. I couldn't join last week. You had a problem. Kept telling me. They kept telling me that you were in another meeting. I must have probably got the URL wrong. I think you changed it now.
Okay. So. Well, this URL for last week's meeting and this one going forward, the tiny Zoom one, is always going to be good.
Okay.
If you care about the technical stuff, I made it a repeating meeting on Zoom and then took that and made that a tiny URL. That's why it's shorter. If you're not familiar with that, there are several websites like tinyurl.com. There's other, I can't think of the one. That's the one I use, but there's other ones out there. And you basically go to the website and you paste in a long link and it gives you like 6 or 7 just random characters. But if you type in, like I type in Research Lodge Zoom, if it's available, it brands that permanently to your link.
Okay.
So you can customize it as much as you want, and then you can share that with other people. That's what I did with my videos. It was Cigar Doug videos until I got over 100 subscribers. And then it took about a month, and YouTube finally let me have a custom URL for YouTube. So it's youtube.com/CigarDoug. So I've used Tiny URL a lot in the past. Typically, I brand it because that's something I want to reuse. But if you use a temporary one, it'll give you just garbage characters after. But that will shorten any URL. And then you can go, if you like, there's a website. If you're nervous, you can go to this other website and paste in a tiny URL, and it tells you what the actual URL is before you visit it in case you're worried.
Oh, okay.
So it's neat. But the whole idea is I want to make it so y'all can bookmark it, and then you don't have to go and get the link every time. It's going to change. But the long one will always be or should be, actually, that may be it. I may not have cleaned up the email inside. I may not have cleaned up the link inside of the email because I copied it from the previous week. So I got to take out the long one and put the shorter one in there. But I did list it at the top. So we'll see.
Thank you.
We'll get it right over time. Brother Cameron, how are you doing this morning? You're on mute, but that's okay. Oh, Brother Elias is here.
There we go. Not bad. How's it going?
Good. Very good to see you. People are starting to filter in. Brother Kavur. Good to meet you, brother. I'm sorry I butchered your name, but Brother Elias, good to see you. Why don't you say hello?
Yeah. Okay.
Good to have you here. He just joined us last week on Facebook. We just became friends and what all. So glad you made the meeting.
Okay.
And Brother Harpold, good to see you.
Good morning.
So we're actually almost at 10 o'clock. I think I'll wait till we get at least 10 people and then we'll get started. As you all probably know, we have we post these Zoom meetings to YouTube during the week. I think I just got this one up on Thursday night. And so they will always be available. If you come in late, you will always be able to watch the whole thing later on YouTube. And of course, if you come in late, you're not going to hear me right now saying, if you come in late, but oh well. So if you watch this on YouTube, you will know that you could have watched it on YouTube. I don't know what good it is, but I will make a point to mention that later on too. I'll do my best. I'm going to go ahead and post in the chat and then I'll tell them later. I'm not always good about multitasking, so I'm going to try and do this now. This is the link to our Facebook page. I think most of you are already members, but that is where you can go. I ask you to join. You don't have to join because it's public, but I ask you to join in case you want to comment or post. But that is the link to Virginia Research Lodge's Facebook page, and that is where we post events such as this one, and we have the follow-ups, the YouTube and the chat. I'll post there as well, and we also have other Zoom meetings courtesy of Brother Brian over here, who you're to my left right now, but in more ways than one. But but that's okay. He posts quite a few Zoom meetings from England and elsewhere, and we appreciate that greatly. If anything you want to post on our, bless you. If anything you want to post on our Facebook that's relative to Masonry or research, we'd love to see it. This is the website for Virginia Research Lodge. You're welcome to join our visit our website and take a look at the papers we have published there. I send them out every week in a weekly mailing. And here is my email address, which is easy to remember once you know the website. And if you want to sign up for the weekly email, the weekly research paper emails, please just email me and I'll add you. Simply joining our Facebook group does not put you on the email list. I do post the papers on the group the same day that I start emailing them out. But if you want to get the emails with the meeting request, then you need to sign up. But you can also just visit if you don't want to email, if you don't want to join the emails, then you are welcome to just go to the Facebook page. So that's all the official stuff. Anybody else have anything they want to get off the chest before we start the actual, it's after 10. We only have 8. I'm a little disappointed we don't have more people yet. We can start with the questions if y'all like, or we can just kind of chit chat for a bit. I'm open to what the audience wants to do. Anyone care?
I'm happy to start with some of the questions. Maybe.
Okay. Well, if anyone wants to wait, say something. Because we got 8 people. I'm hoping to have more. I'm hoping more will join in. I don't know how popular this will be. We shall see. Okay.
We have a quorum. Let's start.
Yep. Okay, we are going to go ahead and start the questions. I'm just going to walk down the list and ask questions. If you don't feel comfortable answering, tell me. But I would hope everyone would at least make an effort to answer them. And I'm going to be calling on people to reply or to respond, depending. And if you want to comment on the question, by all means, go in. We do not have a strict format here. This is the first time we've done. This is Masonic Mania 1. And those of you who don't understand American wrestling, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But that's okay. The whole idea is this is going to be just a roundtable discussion of everybody in the chat. I'm just going to ask questions one by one. And I was hoping to have a bunch more people, but we'll just see how this goes. And if it's popular, we'll do it again. If it's not, then we won't do it again. That's how life works on the internet. So I'm going to start with Brother Brian Smith. And I'm going to go and ask you to introduce yourself and what lodge you belong to. You don't need to list all of them. Just one will do.
As you can see, my name is Brian Smith. I'm from Esser Lodge number 6278 in the province of Cornwall, which is the UK. And I'm the secretary.
All right, very good. And Brian is, oh, I'm sorry. I hadn't done that
I'm not
yet.
the co-host yet.
Brian, whether he knows it or not, is the co-host of the
I'm
meeting.
also, if I may, edit or do a weekly Zoom meeting, which is an international thing.
Yes.
It is just basically a drop in, have a natter, go whenever you want. It can last for 7 or 8 hours, but it is just people from around the world coming in at different time zones. We also have a chat group, which is the same, different time zones, active 24 hours a day.
Yes.
If you're interested, if Chris is okay with that, I'll put a link in the chat.
Please do. I will say this to everyone. If you join the chat, mute it, because I'm seeing every second of every day you're going to say you're getting a new message. You're like, after a while, you're like, oh damn, it's them. So this is cool, and I give Facebook credit for finally getting something right with technology. As a software engineer myself, I can't stand half of what Facebook does because they do it wrong. And they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They should have QA people who point them in the right direction. But they get most of what they do wrong. They have great functionality, and they manage it terribly. They have added the capability to mute a chat in Facebook Messenger. So you can sign up for it, and whenever you want to, click on it. It'll always be at the top because it's got the most recent post, and that's how their Messenger works. But it doesn't send you a notification for that one chat. But you will still get notifications for any other chat, which is very useful. And they need to take that. Now, since the NSA and Facebook does monitor all communications online, if you're paying attention, Facebook, add that functionality to everything else you do. Give people the option to opt in and out. Give them the option to fine granular manage their experience. But yes, I keep the chat on and I put it on mute, so I'm not constantly being told I have a message when it's just them. But I do drop in and follow it and then go away again. But it is nonstop, and I think it's pretty great you've got that going. I just hope you get people find something interesting in there. I jump in there for a bit and I read what's going on. I can't read all of it. It's kind of like what my Twitter feed turned into when I stopped paying attention because there's just too much and you can't follow all of it. So you just got to take in little snaps. All right, so we're going to go ahead with the first question to Brother Brian Smith. What is the furthest lodge you have attended from where you live?
Physically, I must admit I haven't gone very far, about 40, 50 miles.
Okay.
Zoom-wise, Australia.
Oh, Zoom-wise don't count. Zoom don't count. No, I'm talking about physically traveled somewhere.
Physically, then very few places. Plymouth, which is in the next county, which is where I was born, and several lodges in Cornwall.
Okay. Never been to Scotland or Ireland or even the continent or anything for Masonry. Okay. We have, let's see, Brother Clint and Brother Rob, correct? Or did I get your name right?
Robbie.
Robbie, okay.
Rob, that works.
Okay, we'll go with Clint. Well, okay, I will be ageist and assume that Clint is older. He's been in longer. How many times have you been?
Oh yeah, right. No. There's another gentleman that's older.
Which one of you is the older? They've been in Masonry longer. I'll put it that way. Okay, so Clint, the one who's sitting down, how many times have you been elected presiding officer? Masonically.
Wow. How many times?
Let's hear them all.
1, 2, yeah, once. Well, yeah, once in lodge. Yeah, one in lodge, one in York Ray. No, not York Ray. You were a master once in the lodge. Right. And how many times you were worthy patron? Oh, geez, worthy patron about 3 years now as a worthy patron of Eastern Star.
Okay.
Now it's floor chapter number 46 here in Deer Lodge, Montana. So I'm like,
That it?
I'm pretty well active. I like go around different lodges too, but going out of state, I was in the National Guards. We went to, me and this, another brother went to a lodge there. It was kind of interesting. It was a Prince Hall Lodge.
Oh, cool.
It was under the Army, so yeah, it was kind of nice. We got into a third degree, and it was something else. It was something else. I'm like, wow.
Very cool.
So,
okay. Well, since we don't have that many people here, I'm going to go and keep asking the question then. Brother Hughes, what's the furthest lodge you've attended from where you live?
The farthest I travelled was Singapore.
Oh, wow. And what were you doing in Singapore? Were you on travel on business or?
I went there to visit a lodge. No, I went there to visit a lodge.
Yeah, seriously, you traveled specifically to visit a lodge. That's very cool.
Yeah. That's
Brother,
correct,
that,
yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Excellent. Brother
And
Day. Oh, I'm sorry.
I regularly twice. Lodges in Bulgaria.
You do visit Bulgaria. Oh, that's cool. Do you happen to know Brother Meek? You weren't on last week, were you? Did you catch last week's Zoom meeting?
Yes,
Okay. Do you happen to know Brother Meek?
I could do, yes.
Excellent. Okay.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't know him? Okay. I love this wide open communication we have. Why, yes. Oh, you do know him? No, I don't. No, I don't. Yes. I started thinking I'm in a Monty Python sketch, you know?
Yeah.
John
Well,
Cleese. Yes. Well, no.
I'm a member of
I don't know, maybe just all you Brits just sort of talk that way. And, you know, Monty Python turns out to actually be a documentary. You all just act that way.
If you get the chance, have a look at the Vicar of Dibley.
The bicker. Okay.
Vicar of Dibley. Yeah, that's definitely worth looking at.
All right. Brother Ade, what is the furthest you have traveled to visit a lodge?
Uh,
Go ahead. Sorry. Introduce yourself. What lodge you're from and such.
oh, okay. So my lodge is Westgate 734. That is in Toronto, Canada. I'm also a member of 3 other craft lodges in basically United Grand Lodge of England district lodges in Ghana, and also a member of 2 chapters, one under Canada and one under United Grand Lodge of England as well. So traveling wise, so I'm a member of lodges in Ghana in Africa, and then also in Canada as well. So basically that's where I'll say my cable tow stretches.
Awesome.
So yeah, so I have purposely traveled just to go for installations in Ghana, and
That's great.
obviously also in Canada, I would say easily about 80 kilometers away from where I live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think Africa beats that, but okay.
Well,
So Ghana. So you were raised in Canada or raised in?
no. I was raised in Ghana and also lived in
Okay.
England for some time as well. So
Okay.
yeah, so I've lived basically on 3 continents.
Right. So you already had ties to Ghana then. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's very cool. I had a chance to visit Fredericksburg Lodge number 4, which is the one that George Washington was raised in, here in Virginia. And they have a sister lodge in Gabon. And 4 brothers
That's
came. I happened to be working in Northern Virginia for about a year and a half, where I was commuting actually every week from Virginia Beach to Fredericksburg. And I attended Fredericksburg Lodge a few times when I was there. And they had an occasion where the brothers from Gabon had come to the U.S. and they visited Fredericksburg Lodge, and then they went to D.C. One of their brothers was a fellow craft. So Fredericksburg opened on the fellow craft degree so he could attend.
Oh.
And then they went up to D.C. that weekend, and there was like a 1-day conferral. It was like a big class, and he was raised in Washington, D.C. in one of their lodges.
How is that allowed?
Huh?
How is that allowed? How does he get raised if he's not in the same jurisdiction, though?
I don't know. I imagine they got permission to do the courtesy work, I think. And it does happen. I will say I have actually coached brothers from Florida who were in the Navy, who were stationed in Norfolk, and I coached them, and our lodge was allowed. They actually got, I think we did their fellowcraft degree for them here in Norfolk. You have to have the 2 Grand Lodges, of course, have to recognize each other, and you have to ask permission to do courtesy work. And I actually coached them both.
There you go.
They got their fellowcraft degree here, and then I coached them to do their Master Masons. And then I traveled with them down to Florida and got to attend their lodge down there and watch them stand their catechism and then receive the Master Masons degree down in Florida. So it was really pretty cool. But yeah, as long as the 2 Grand Lodges, as long as their approval of the courtesy work, we have it happen where a brother's raised here and he's in the military. We got a lot of Navy guys in this area, and they're transferred to another state. And then we contact that Grand Lodge for them to do the courtesy work. He still is a member of our lodge, but they're allowed to do the work for him. It's pretty cool.
So is there like sort of a test before being moved to the next degree? Because
Well, yeah, we have what we call a catechism in Virginia.
Okay.
But
So whose ritual do they use then?
well, in the case of the brothers that I was coaching in my mother lodge, they were from Florida. We used Virginia ritual because I was their coach and that's what I knew.
Okay.
So they allowed them, I think they stood their catechism. Yeah, I take that back. They stood their catechism in our lodge and we voted on them. And then they went back to Florida to actually receive the degree because they wanted them to receive their Master Mason's degree. But I think they got their fellowcraft degree from us is what we did. But like typically it's whatever lodge, you know, if say I got transferred to North Carolina and I want to be raised there, they're going to use their ritual because that's what their coaches know and that's what they are familiar with. So you're going to get it in the degree typically of where you live. So it's pretty cool.
Yep.
Brother Hopprold, will you please introduce yourself? Oh, good. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. Brother Mark Phillips is joining us. Let's give him a chance to get in. Welcome, Brother Mark.
Hello.
Hello. Brother Mark, you're on mute. Hello, Brother Mark. Oh, maybe he'll come back. All right, Brother Harpold, please unmute and introduce yourself. What lodge you from?
I'm in the Cranberry number 598 in Elk Park, North Carolina, northwestern North Carolina. The farthest I actually have attended another lodge is probably in the area where I was raised in Franklin, Virginia.
Cool.
The Windsor Lodge and Franklin Lodge are the two lodges from this location here.
Okay, very good. I actually attended, let's see, Falls or North something. Anyway, I attended a lodge. I don't think it was quite in Elizabeth City, but it's kind of that area. I live in Virginia Beach, so we're just north of
Right.
Hertford, Elizabeth City, all of that. I can't say exactly which, but we attended South Mills Lodge. Maybe that's it. In northern North Carolina, right near the border.
Mm-hmm.
And the one interesting thing, okay, I think I can say this without getting in trouble. The one thing they do differently is the master, normally they take up the word. The master stood up and said, Brother Senior Warden, are all present Master Masons? And he looks around and says, yep, they are.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
But then you have to confirm that through the
Right.
through
Now,
the deed.
that was it. That was the extent of what they did.
Oh,
Whereas our ritual,
well, I mean, in our lodge, it's not that way. Like I said, there has to be a confirmation.
Mhm. That's what was so interesting. But anyway, I don't want to get too much into ritual. I don't want to get anybody in trouble here. But that was one thing that stood, just the way he said it. And of course, they were more dressed like I'm dressed right now. Okay, well, thank you. Brother Adamson, worshipful Brother Adamson, please introduce yourself. A man who needs no introduction, so I'm not going to give him one. Brother Adamson, please introduce yourself for the handful who don't know who you are. And then you can ask a question.
Worshipful Brother Cameron Adamson, past master of Harmony Lodge 579 and Windsor Lodge 403. Both meet at the Windsor Masonic Temple.
What? I've never heard of it.
Sure, yes. I try to keep it under wraps, you know. I try to keep it as quiet as I can.
Now, I realize some of you attend almost every one of these, and good for you. If those of you missed it, like 2, 3, I guess it was beginning of January now. It's a couple of times, couple of meetings ago, but Brother Cameron gave a very nice detailed virtual tour of Windsor Masonic Temple, which is now in its centennial year, is it not, or just over 100?
Yes, yeah, we're at our 100th year. Actually, if anybody's interested, today, actually, gosh, at 5 o'clock, we're hosting another virtual tour of the temple. This is through the Detroit Historical Society, so it's a ticket event, but you can order tickets online because Windsor, Canada, and Detroit, United States, are stone's throw from each other. We're right next to each other, so there's a lot of overlap, both Masonically and just in the culture. A lot of people, not as much anymore with the border closure, but you know, it's very common to live in Windsor and work in the States and vice versa.
Right.
So yeah, so it's 5 o'clock through the Detroit Historical Society, 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you go to their website, you can grab tickets for it.
Great. Feel free to put a link in the chat if you like.
Sure, I'll grab one. And I also threw a link in there earlier to just episode of the podcast I have. I should have put you up.
Yes, let's see. Okay. So yeah, so that's why I was kind of teasing, because we did cover his temple was the subject of one of our previous meetings. Most of y'all knew that. That's why I was kind of joking about it. So Brother Adamson, what is the farthest you've traveled in person to attend a Masonic lodge or other Masonic body?
It would be Halt Whistle 5090 in Northumberland, England. My grandfather, both my grandfathers were Masons, but on my dad's side, my dad was born and raised in England. So his father was a member and past master of Halt Whistle Lodge in 1974. So I got to visit that about 6 or 7 years ago. Maybe even more than that. Maybe.
Cool.
I don't know, and a long time ago. But yeah, so that'd be the furthest I ever visited was Halt Whistle Lodge 5090, Northumberland, England.
Excellent. All right. Brother Cavour, please introduce yourself. Tell us your lodge. Need to unmute. Need to unmute. By the way, if you're on Zoom on your PC, it's in the lower left corner, the little microphone that says mute. Just tap it to unmute. I know everybody's familiar with Zoom that much. Brother Cavour, am I butchering your name? Is it Cavour?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Okay,
Please
okay.
introduce yourself and tell me what lodge you belong to.
I am from India. I am a member of Lord Calicut number 237, which is Grand Lodge of India Constitution.
Very good.
And I am staying in Calicut only. Calicut means that is Kerala states, one of the cities in the Kerala state. Kerala state is southern side of India.
Very good.
I'm a past master of Lord Calicut number 237.
Okay. Excellent. And what is the furthest you've traveled to visit a lodge?
Pardon me?
What is the furthest you've traveled to visit a lodge? What's the farthest lodge from your home that you visited?
It's nearby. Lord Calicut is nearby.
Well, no. I'm talking about another lodge. Another lodge.
I usually goes for a lodge meeting far away by other places in Chennai and all. I will be going.
Okay. Very good. All right. Brother Clark, please unmute and turn your video on so we can see you. Brother Clark. Hello, Brother Andrew Clark with an E. And he's gone. Okay. I generally don't mind if you all like to, some people like to mute their camera. I expect everyone to mute when they, just as a respect, but I like people at least show their video and say hello. And we're back down to 8. Okay. Maybe not as popular a topic as I thought it would be. Oh, well, it is what it is. Well, let's go. Brother Brian Smith, how many times have you served as presiding officer in a Masonic body?
It's a round figure, 0. I prefer working for a living.
Okay. You've never been a presiding officer. Wow.
Never. Nope.
Okay. And you have, well, go ahead.
Sorry. Presiding officer actually is a phrase that I'm not actually au fait with either.
Okay. You're not familiar with, or you don't like it?
So what is presiding officer?
Oh, worshipful master,
No.
high priest, commander,
No.
venerable master. The term presiding officer means whoever is elected as in charge of that Masonic body. It's collectively. Lodge, chapter, council, Scottish Rite Valley, what have you. Presiding officer is the person in charge who presides.
I understand. I say it's not a phrase that we use over here, so it's
Well, of course.
But no, I haven't. As I say, I prefer working for a living rather than
Right.
sort of sitting up there at a high chair and trying to remember things.
You did actually figure out correctly what it meant, which is funny. That's good. So explain for us then, because this is interesting. You are secretary of your lodge. Now, I will say in Virginia, and I would argue it's safe generally for me to say most, I try not to say the word all, most American Grand Lodges are very similar to Virginia in their makeup. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are differences, and I presume there are, but since we all came from England and all of the lodges, all of the Grand Lodges west of the East Coast were chartered by lodges from the colonies, we're all very similar in our ritual and our makeup. So in Virginia, which is typical, I presume, and the worshipful master is elected for 1 year. We have line officers. We typically start junior deacon and you work your way up to master. And typically, I'm not all the time, but virtually everywhere I've ever been in Virginia, the secretary is a past master of that lodge. After you served as master, when the current secretary chooses to retire, they choose from one of the past masters to replace him. And that's pretty much the pattern here. It is occasionally you might have a guy who affiliates from another lodge who ends up being secretary. But I would think generally the secretary and the treasurer are both elected, and they both are typically past masters of the lodge. It's the exception they're not. And I will say this, the elected officers in Virginia are, in order, because I do the installing officer part, worshipful master, senior warden, junior warden, treasurer, secretary, senior deacon, junior deacon. So the treasurer and secretary are actually above the deacons in terms of what order they're elected in the lodge, but not in authority. And I know you all do it different, so I wanted you to explain how you put secretaries in England.
Okay.
What
you do to get a secretary in the UK is normally get someone blind drunk and leave them to it when they're. There is the majority of secretaries in the UK would be past masters. I'm just lucky, I guess.
Okay.
Progression. We don't actually have elections for anyone usually, apart from sometimes the Tyler, but it's not usual. It's normally by progression. So if you come in as an entered apprentice, work your way up through steward, and eventually, unless something silly happens or you decide to change your mind, you will end up as a worshipful master.
Okay.
There's no election at all.
Well, okay. Do you actually have the master is actually elected, whether he runs unopposed or not? He's elected, is he not?
I guess you would call it elected. It's always well, I say always. I've never known it to be not unopposed.
Right.
Again, so it is more by progression than election.
Okay. So what's the order then? Well, like what's the first actual office that you consider part of your progression?
Be inner guard.
Okay.
Then junior and senior deacon, junior and senior warden, and then master.
Okay, so secretary is appointed then by the master?
Yeah.
Okay. And does that typically change every year?
If you can get someone daft enough to do the job, ideally, yes. The probability is that I'll be here until we can get someone else drunk and stick them in the chair when I'm not looking.
So typically you do serve as secretary for multiple years then. Yeah. Each new master just appoints the previous. So a new master can, if he wants, appoint, even if the current guy is still drunk or whatever and still has not decided to flee, he can appoint whoever he wants as secretary. Okay.
Yes, exactly right.
Because I find that quite different from us. And that's what's kind of surprising to say, wait, really? He's not elected? But all the bit about getting him drunk and being unwilling and, please someone oppose me. Yes, that's all still true here, but we actually have the formality of electing them. I find it interesting how the treasurer outranks the secretary in the manner of election and the manner of what order they're installed.
Mhm.
The first election I was in, or the first installation I was in, I was thinking, but you go, I mean, if you come in as junior deacon, just so it's clear, you go from junior deacon to senior deacon to junior warden. So it doesn't make sense that the treasurer and secretary are stuck in the middle there, considering they typically stay in place for years and years and years, and you
Yeah.
jump over them. But in the actual election and in the actual installation degree, the installation ceremony, that's where they're put in. And again, treasurer, you would think that secretary outranks the treasurer, but he doesn't.
We also have other officers that probably wouldn't move either, like the chaplain. That's another job that that should change every year, but you normally find it's the same person year in, year out.
Right. Okay. Let's change things up. I'm going to open this up to the floor, because if I ask you and you don't know, then, I mean, so I'm going to just ask this. One of you feel free to jump in and answer. Who have you met in Lodge that you were surprised was a Mason? Anyone?
Andrew Clark, by the way, the guy that came in and went out.
Yeah.
He's having technical difficulties. He sent me a message.
Oh, good. Okay.
He's going to try again.
Very good. Very good.
I don't know if I ever, I'm not sure how to, like, there was one instance where there was somebody, he was a friend of mine through school.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, pretty close, relatively speaking. Then I joined Mason, was initiated, and I found out after I was initiated that he was a Mason in his hometown. He was in Windsor for school, but he lived in Markham, which is about 4.5 hours away. So that was a little bit surprising, just in the sense that I didn't find out he was a Mason until after I had joined.
Okay.
Well,
that's what I was looking for.
Nobody in particular that surprised me, because most people I met them as Masons, either visiting or when I attended.
Right. What I'm getting at is, like, if you run into someone that you know in life and you happen to show, I was hoping that you show up at a meeting and they're there and you didn't even know they were a Mason until you saw them in Lodge, is what I was hoping to find, is someone who experienced that. But
so I guess there's that one.
okay.
I've been more, there's been people who I've met through Masonry, and I've been surprised that they've been Masons, just in the sense that they may not demonstrate they may not demonstrate Masonic qualities necessarily.
Well,
so
I was trying to keep this more on the positive, upbeat kind of way, not simply, I can't believe that guy's a Mason. I mean, no. I don't want to devolve into that, guys. This is more of a pleasant surprise. I will say this. A lot of these questions are kind of things from my life, and I was hoping to have enough people that I wouldn't have to answer any questions either, but so be it. If we had like 30 people here, we'd get a lot more responses. That's why I'm a little disappointed we wouldn't have a bigger crowd today. Normally we do, so this would be more fun with more people. It's like any good party game, the more people, the better. But I found out that my commanding officer of my battalion, when I was stationed in Okinawa, was a Mason. And he actually joined a lodge in New Bern in North Carolina, because he was stationed with the wing there. And he was a member of a lodge. And some other guy came over and like called me an ass kisser. And the colonel said, "Bullshit! He had no way of knowing I was a Mason." I was like, "True. It just came up in conversation." I could not persuade him to go with me to go attend lodge, but I did actually attend lodge in Japan when I was over there, which was great. But it turns out he was a member of the Royal Arch and a Blue Lodge in New Bern, because he had come from the Air Wing there in Cherry Point. So I knew there were Masons, and I've met plenty of people who were senior to me in the military when I was in and after I got out. A lot of chiefs, a lot of officers that I've met. While I knew them at first from Masonry, and they knew they were officers and what all. But there's only been a handful of times that people I've served with found out they were Masons indirectly. And it was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So, but it's not something they ever broadcast. It's like I would be wearing my ring and they saw it and said something to me. So it's not something they made a point of. They didn't wear the Masonic rings in uniform, I noticed. It's sort of they noticed me wearing mine once and said something. So, but that was kind of where I was going with that question, is hope to find somebody. You know, I think it'd be kind of cool to walk into lodge and go, hey, so-and-so. I imagine there must be people out there who run into like relatives they didn't know were Masons. And then it'd be more like, yeah, where were you when I was trying to get my petition signed? But anyway, so be it. Okay, we're gonna ask. I'm gonna go down the list here and ask people this. Let's say, let me pick somebody at random. Brother Kavur, what are your lodge dues? How much are your lodge dues? Need to unmute. Need to unmute. You need to unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Annually it comes about rupees 5,000. Rupees in rupees.
How much in American? How much is that in dollars?
Dollars, it means $500. $50.
$50 a year. Okay.
$50.
Okay. Who here thinks they pay the most in dues? Let me just put it that way. For the blue.
Yeah. Pardon?
I'm asking who here of everybody else, who thinks they pay the most in dues? Trying to find who pays the most for your regular Blue Lodge.
Mine's about $152 a year, about 110.
Okay. You got me beat by 10. Anybody higher than $150 a year? Or whatever that
100,
goes to.
150. Yeah. It comes about.
Well, no, yours is 50, brother. I'm asking everybody else if somebody's more. Everyone paid more than $150 equivalent where you're at?
No. What equally.
No, we got yours. I'm asking everybody else, brother. I'm trying to find the highest. You're 50. We're at about 150. I'm trying to find the highest.
I think I pay about just over 200 Canadian dollars. So that's probably more than $150.
Okay.
Are
Brother Georges? Good to have you join us, Brother Georges. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what lodge you belong to, since you just joined us.
Sorry, I'm late.
That's all right.
Late. Yeah. Good morning, and from Wellington Lodge, past master from Wellington Lodge, George Azure.
Thank you. And how much do you pay for dues?
$250.
$250?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, there you go. I'm sorry, I was typing while you were replying. And where is your lodge? Where are you located?
I'm from Canada, Toronto.
Okay, Toronto.
Ontario, Grand Lodge of Canada.
Okay.
And it's York District. And our dues, like the average dues in Ontario, around $250, $300.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So who pays the lowest dues just for Blue Lodge? I mean, I pay like $20 for Research Lodge. That's why I bought a Luck membership for like $300 and was done.
Right.
Anybody here pay? What is the least anyone pays? Anyone pay less than $50 for a regular Blue Lodge?
There's none in Ontario.
Butte Lodge 22, $45 a year.
Who's that?
It says Butte Lodge 22, $45 a year.
$45 a year.
Actually under 50. Yeah, this little, actually it's 40. Well, we actually got the per capita increase. So about $48.
Okay.
$48 a year.
How much do you pay to Grand Lodge out of that? Ballpark.
It's $45 roughly, or 40 something like that.
No, out of your lodge, you only get to keep like $5?
Out of the lodge dues, which is $48. Okay, so it's pretty much about $42 or 40.
Wow.
Yeah. Because what it is our lodge actually has money.
Okay.
And it's been investing a lot. So we just pay the per capita.
Okay.
And yeah, we pay the per capita rounded up to the nearest dollar.
Okay. Interesting.
We're like $45 you pay.
Which country?
Say like $45 you pay $46 or something like that, $48 a year. That's how come we pay the per capita as on
That's
that.
interesting.
And number 14 is $85 a year.
Okay. And that's in Canada, by the way. Or I'm sorry, that's in Montana. That's in Montana where you guys are. In the US.
In Montana.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was your question, George? Okay.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's interesting then. It seems a lot of us are in the same ballpark. That's why I brought it up was, you still have a question, George, or?
Yes, I did. No,
Okay.
that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. I think most of us are in the same ballpark, north of $100, somewhere under 200. I think that's typical. Some are the exceptions. I was saying the Research Lodge, we pay 20, and all of the research things I belong to were like $20 a year, just the minimum. And now I think every Grand Lodge has an assessment from each individual body. In Virginia, I think the Grand Lodge assessment is around $45 now. And those who belong to the big lodge in Norfolk, because my district is in Norfolk, Ocean View has their own. By the way, this is Ocean View's this is our lodge room. This is the east wall that one of our brothers painted for us. So this is what you see in the lodge room. Our lodge dues were like 140 or something, but those who meet in the big temple in Norfolk, they pay, I think it's well over $45 a year to the temple corporation, basically to maintain the building. And what's interesting and what's troubling in a way is when I joined, there were 9 or 10 blue lodges in the building, I think. 2 Royal Arch chapters, a commandery, a Scottish Rite Valley, and several women's groups, and I think 4 Eastern Star, 1 Amaranth, and a Demolay chapter, 2 Job's Daughters Bethels, and 1 Rainbow Assembly. And the building's over 50 years old, and it's in sad shape. They've had to repair the roof more than once. And basically, as more members have died, a typical member, would be in the Blue Lodge, in the Royal Arch, usually in the Commandery, usually in the Scottish Rite, and sometimes the ladies' groups. So if one member dies, that's at least 5 assessments that go away from the temple, not just 1 for the lodge. So as membership declines, they have to keep raising the assessment for the building, which means all the lodges have to raise their dues. And most of the bylaws for the lodge say, we get $50 plus whatever Grand Lodge is, plus whatever the temple assessment is. So they don't have to change the bylaws every couple of years when one of those change. But it's a very big, beautiful building. It reminds me of Windsor in a way, where we have a lot of capabilities. We have a huge auditorium and all. And just this year, the Scottish Rite voted to move out. And 1 lodge has already moved out. Another one is trying to move out. And pretty soon, the only people left holding the bag will be, a handful of lodges, and they won't be able to pay for the upkeep of the building. So sort of a situation where we needed to sell the building at least 5 years ago when everyone was still there and when it is still marketable. But it's sort of like a sinking weight now, where it's going to be gradually, the lodges will not be able to maintain it, and they'll have to sell it for whatever they can get. And each lodge that's still a plank owner will only get a small percentage. But that's what's going on with us, is that building in particular, you don't pay for upkeep of the building, you just pay a corporation that manages the building itself. So it is unfortunate.
Those are pretty common problems you just described.
Indeed.
I think most Masonic temples are experiencing similar issues. Windsor Masonic Temple has kind of the same
The ones who have the larger ones that have multiple bodies in them, yes. Individual lodges, not so much. I mean, the upkeep of a smaller building. I mean, if you have to raise your dues a little bit, a lodge like Ocean View, for example, if we have very low operating costs, with basically the heat is one of the main expenses for the building. So we just have to be careful about energy costs and heating costs. We can manage the day-to-day expenses, the monthly expenses, better than the large building can, because they have so many people using it. You pretty much have to have the heat running all the time in the winter, and then they have to start restricting when people can meet to make sure that they're not heating the building for an empty building. So it runs into problems. Brother Georges, go ahead.
What is the average fee for initiation?
Oh, that's a good question. I honestly don't know anymore because I don't pay attention to it. I would say it would be $300 to $400 in Virginia. So I would say typically 3 times a year's dues would be fair.
We charge $1,000 in Ontario.
$1,000.
Our lodge $1,000, but it goes about $500 across the board.
Okay, wow. I know the Grand Lodges have a minimum. I don't know if Grand Lodges, if they all have a max. I think if a lodge wants to charge too much, then the Grand Lodge may step in and say that's a bit high. Because remember, the Grand Lodge may say, well, the Grand Lodge does say, you will pay us, I don't know, $75 with the petition, or $75 for the EA degree, and so on. And you have to send a percentage to the Grand Lodge. You can charge an amount in addition to that. I think my lodge typically doesn't charge much more than what the Grand Lodge collects. Some lodges go higher on initiations, and I know there are cases where the Grand Lodge says, nah, you're going too high and you're not, because a lodge can vote, of course, to change their bylaws and say, we're going to charge $1,000 for initiation, because we're giving $500 to the Grand Lodge. And the Grand Lodge can come back and say, no, you're not allowed to charge that much, and we reject your bylaws change. So the Grand Lodge can control what a lodge charges. So I think it's sort of an implied thing that most Virginia lodges are typical. This relates to the whole traditional observance thing we were talking about a couple weeks ago. It's like they want to charge more for dues, more for initiations, and so on, to be more elite. And sometimes they run afoul of the Grand Lodge when they do so, especially if you try to change an existing body. That doesn't seem to go over well. Let's see. Oh, Brother Hughes, to go to you. What is the best thing you ever served at a Masonic dinner? The best meal, dessert, what have you?
Oh, well, in London, some of the lodges dine very well indeed. The Michelin star level.
Okay. I don't know what that is, but it sounds pricey.
Well, that's the highest level of you can obtain in a kitchen.
Oh, okay. But specifically, what kind of food would you say would be some of the best you've eaten?
Well, there again, in the provinces, it's quite a lot cheaper than in London.
Okay.
I don't prefer it. I wouldn't give it to a dog sometimes.
Well, ask what you think is the best. So what's the best meal you've had? Your own opinion.
Well, that would be a 7-course banquet.
Okay.
Our centenary.
Excellent.
Which was more or less a copy of the dinner which was served on the day we were consecrated.
Oh, that's very cool. Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I've got to go now, I'm afraid. Hopefully I'll see you all next week.
All right. Well, I'm glad I caught you just in time. All right, Brother Hughes, good to see you. Okay. We had someone else. Oh, we had George's turn. That's what it was. Okay. Brother Aday, what's the best meal you ever had in a Masonic setting?
I would say it's more of installations.
Okay.
Yeah, so usually there's a bigger banquet of installation that is there's a variety, or sometimes Christmas parties, or sometimes what we do is everybody brings something from home. So
right,
like a ladies' night, you cook something and then you bring it. So there's a whole variety of different things to pick up from. Those ones are usually good because then you get different cultural background foods and different varieties. So I would probably say
okay,
along those lines, yes.
very good. I will say the best food I've had is actually, and I thought of it while we were talking here, is I used to belong to the Allied Masonic Degrees, and unfortunately my council went under. And those who aren't familiar with it, you join the Royal Arch after the Blue Lodge, and at a certain point, you get invited to join the AMD, which is a research. It's not that different from the Research Lodge or the Research Chapter, which I also belong to here in Virginia Beach. But the AMD councils, you can only have 27 members, and you have to be invited to join. And I actually was Sovereign Master. Sovereign Master? Is that the right term? Is it Sovereign Master or Venerable Master? I always get those confused. Sovereign. Okay. Rob is telling me it's Sovereign. And we have the wives come and we serve a big potluck before the meeting. So I'll say the best food I ever had was at an AMD council meeting because everybody brought a huge variety of food and everybody sort of ate. You know, we just had a big dinner with the wives, and then we went and opened the meeting and would have someone present a paper, much like we do in Research Lodge. And then we close and we go back out to the social hall and everybody socializes again for a bit before they go home. And that's what was really fun about the AMD, is not just that it was exclusive to a point, you know, where you had to be invited to join, but also the wives participated in everything. And we only met like 4 times a year. And I'm looking to get back in another council, of course, with everything. Right now, nobody's meeting, but I was hoping to get back involved in one because the one I was in closed. I moved away. It wasn't because I moved, but I was Sovereign Master. I left, went to Arizona with my wife, and we moved back a few years later, and they'd already closed up shop. They didn't have enough participation or something. I don't know. But that's the best thing I ever had. Brother Georges, what's the best food you ever had in a Masonic setting?
In general or in our lodge?
Specifically, well, wherever. If you had to say the best food you ever had,
well, will be actually our lodge.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah,
we won't tell them you said it.
Yeah, Wellington Lodge have very well known about their hospitality and their food, and through the district. And our food, well, because for me, I mean, beside the steak, many lodges offer in their banquet like a steak. But however, in our lodge, they do Middle Eastern dinners, and which is we have a chef who they own a franchise restaurants in Ontario. And this is where we get our food. It's really usually our meeting, every meeting that we have sit down dinner, and we have like top of the line meal. Like we're talking about $25 a person, just the cost of the meal, which is most of the time is really Middle Eastern food, like kebab and like a Greek food, so to speak. Right. Yeah, type of thing. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Brother Clayton, what is the worst food you ever had at a Masonic event?
That's good.
Not that it's the worst, but it's just sort of off-putting. A neighbor lodge has an annual ramps breakfast. Now, ramps is a wild leek that grows in the Appalachian Mountain region. And if you eat these raw, the lingering odor on your breath may last for 2 or more days. And it's very off-putting to anybody who's around you. So if you want to not have anybody around you, you eat raw ramps. So they have a ramp breakfast. It's ramps and eggs and sausages and it's all cooked. So the odor is not quite as bad, but still yet it's not one of those things that you typically think. In the mountains, it's great, but if you were anywhere else in the state of North Carolina, people would have nothing to do with you.
Well, what does it smell like? Can you compare it to something?
Very strong garlic.
Okay.
Very strong garlic.
I wouldn't have a problem with that, but this is
It's, I mean, it's really good. It's good to taste. I mean, I'm as far as taste,
but it's a lingering taste. Okay.
It's the lingering effect of it.
Interesting. I like that. Good answer. Okay, Brother Kavur, what's the worst food you ever had at a Masonic meal? You need to unmute. Don't forget to unmute. What was that?
Worst food means always I am having food very quite good. I'm a eater because I love food.
Okay.
So I can't say.
You can't.
So
nothing bad. Okay. Well, you've been lucky then. Okay. Brother Brian, what's the worst food you ever had in a Masonic setting?
I was hoping you'd ask me for the best food, but the worst.
Go ahead.
food-
If you want to do the best first, go ahead. But we're on the worst now. You would say best and worst is haggis, right?
No, faggot is the best.
Haggis is the best. That's right.
Yeah, which is basically a small haggis.
Right.
Followed by pasty, probably. The worst, it's got to be gammon. I hate it when I do it in the lodge. You just bung it all in together in a big container and shove it in the oven. And if you get one around the edges, it's burnt. And if you get one in the middle, it's about right.
And what is gammon?
It's pork, basically a very, very thin pork joint.
Okay. Interesting. But is that regardless of whether you had it, like anywhere you had gammon, you wouldn't like it, you're saying?
No, I love gammon quite normally.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, just like the way they cook it.
Okay. That's what I was looking for. Okay.
We have caterers in our lodges to do the cooking for us.
Right.
So we go up in the lodge, do our thing, and then come down, have a meal, and have a drink. So we're sometimes longer than they expect, and things get a little bit burnt.
So they overcook it. Okay. Well, I've burned, as junior warden, I managed to burn the chili once that I was supposed to serve in the lodge. So I totally get that. And actually, on occasion, I made chili for my lodge, and I made it too spicy because for me, it was fine. It was early on as junior warden. I didn't know much. And it didn't occur to me that a bunch of men who are basically the age of most of who I see here, all right? And believe it or not, I'm actually older than I look, so they're like the age of what I am now. But I looked the same then, go figure. I'm cooking a bunch of chili that I think is great for a 20-something to eat. And a bunch of 50-year-old men just weren't up for the 2-alarm chili I was preparing. So I got to bring a great deal home. My roommate at the time, who was a fellow senior DMLA, he loved it, the fact I was junior warden, because I make enough to feed an army. I take it to lodge, half gets eaten, I bring it home, and then he's got leftovers for days. So we always liked the fact that I was junior warden because he got his money's worth out of me.
Things are never too spicy.
Well, for some of us, yes. I can make food that's too spicy for my own family to eat. So I have to learn to dose it up myself after I've made it. All right, Brother Clint and Brother Rob, what's the worst food y'all ever had in your lodge? In any lodge. Okay. Not your lodge. Any lodge. You don't have to throw your lodge.
We never had a bad meal. We never had a bad meal at all.
Come on. Never?
No, really. No, we haven't. We haven't.
Okay.
Never have.
Okay.
Well, you see, each of the lodges are different, right? But when they fix a meal, it's good all the time.
Well, no, actually, no, hold on. There was actually one time that the meal was it wasn't really good. So we went over to Marysville Lodge, Ottawa number 51 here in Montana. And one of the brothers was his time to cook. So the only thing he brought, or he didn't actually check the order where he got from the restaurant. And the only thing that was in there was mashed potatoes and gravy.
That's all.
So we had mashed potatoes and gravy and chips. That's all was in
and
the
ice cream.
Ice cream.
All right.
That's
good.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
No chicken, no that, because he didn't really check the bag.
But
so
still was a good meal.
I mean, it was still a good meal. Quite interesting meal. But
yeah, it was still good.
Very good. Very good. Brother Day, your turn.
You're talking about Montana.
I wouldn't say I've had a bad meal. but
Oh, come
it's more along the lines of sometimes you visit a lodge and you have to pay. I have no problem paying, but I feel sometimes some of the lodges do take advantage to just overcharge.
Yes.
And what you're seeing being served is definitely not equivalent to what they're charging. That's basically it. But other than that, I wouldn't say the meal was bad.
Okay. All right. Brother Cameron, I think I've covered everybody but you. Y'all kind of shift on me sometimes, so I'm trying to go in order. Make sure I don't miss anyone. What's the worst food you ever had in a Masonic setting?
Probably anything I tried to make when I was junior warden.
Well, there you go.
Not the best cook in the world, so I'll throw myself under the bus. Yeah, I don't know. Probably that. I mean, 99% of the time. I can't think of any time that, the food is free, or at least it, covers by the dues. So I never complain about free food. And yeah, I can think of a ton of really great meals I've had either visiting or in my lodge. Not so many bad ones. Even if it's something as simple as coffee and donuts, I don't mind that at all. So.
Okay. Well, I do want to have one example that I want to share, and this is, I attended a Grand Lodge visitation. Now, I assume everybody has something similar, but the Grand Master will come and visit all of the districts in the state over the course of the year. And we were recently, the city of Norfolk. I live in Virginia Beach, if you know the area at all. I live in Virginia Beach, and my lodge is in Norfolk. So there are 12 lodges in Norfolk. I think we're down to 10 now. But it was District 35 when I joined, became 35A and B with 6 lodges each, and then shrunk back down to 35 last year. So we would always have a joint visit from the Grand Master, just like Chesapeake and Virginia Beach would jointly visit. So we try to combine for the Grand Master's visit, so you have about 10 lodges there instead of 6, geographically if possible, because he's got to visit all of them. And that's always been a thing. So Norfolk would always do a joint visitation. So you can get 400 people in our dining hall, and we are well equipped. This is Granby Street I was talking about earlier. We're well equipped. If we're having big events, if we were a large body and we had thousands and thousands of active Masons, the temple would be very useful. Having reunions there is fabulous. We have a stage, we have all these rooms. It's when you shrink in numbers, it is just too big to support. But imagine like a high school cafeteria, okay? That's how big our dining hall is. It's good size. We can seat 400 people comfortably. But we usually, every lodge would have to kick in a couple $100 to pay for the Grand Master's official visit and all that, and they collect money and everything else. But they always put on a good meal, usually. So we're there for the Grand Master's official visit. Too many people are there. They ran out of the chicken, whatever they were serving. They had to run and get Domino's to feed like the last 10 people who showed up late because they literally ran out of food. But the part I want to tell you about is the dessert. The dessert came out, and it was this red, white, and blue parfait glass, the narrow, tall glass that was layered red, white, and blue. And I think it was supposed to be some kind of gelatin or pudding or something. It had literally no taste whatsoever. There was a blue layer, a white layer, and a red layer. And I ate the entire thing, and there was more taste from the spoon than from what was in the glass. Not that it was bad. There was absolutely no taste whatsoever. And I'm asking everybody around me, he's like, what is this? What are we eating? Do you taste anything? Everybody's like, no. It's like, how do you not have any taste whatsoever in a dessert? How do you manage to pull that off? And I'll never forget that. That is the absolute worst thing I've ever had, simply because I love dessert, as you could probably tell. I love to eat dessert. And it was no taste whatsoever. I will never forget that. That was 5-6 years ago. I'll never forget that. It's the absolute worst. So that's why it made me think of asking what the worst was, see if anybody could come up with something like that. Well, brethren, I appreciate y'all coming. It's 11 o'clock, and I do appreciate everyone here giving their best and trying to make this a good session. But I'll be honest, I'm a little disappointed because I'd hope to have like 20 or 30 people and get a lot of good responses and a lot of back and forth. And you all did your best, and I appreciate y'all being here. But really, having less than 10 people. This is the smallest meeting we've had since we started. And I don't know if it was just people weren't into this, or there's other things going on, or they prefer a speaker. But I'm trying different things to see what works, and maybe in the future we'll try this style of meeting again and see if it goes over better. But we will have a good back to our regular type program next week. It's Saturday, February 20th at 10 a.m. It is not. This would be our February stated for Virginia Research Lodge, and originally we had planned to go to Richmond, have our meeting, elect the officers for the year, and because we didn't get to meet in December because of COVID, and then close the meeting without a speaker and go into the dining hall, and I would sign up and maybe get a guy with our cameras to come out, and we'd all get in on the picture or whatever, and have our Zoom meeting like at 11. That was my plan if we met. The master of the lodge made a decision, and I agree with him. We did not meet, so I'm still junior deacon for 2021. The master is going to stay in place. Everyone's going to stay in place because it's not fair to our senior warden to meet in like May or later and elect him then, and he gets 6 months in office. So everybody's staying put for a year. Dennis Has is our master for 20 and 21. I'm still junior deacon for another year. I don't have to change any of my signatures, so that's good. So we are going to have our regular Zoom meeting, our regular unstated in place of our stated. So we're going to live up to our name next Saturday at 10 a.m. It's going to be Brother Jason Hicks will be giving a talk on Sam Houston, who anyone who is here from the States, especially anyone from Texas, knows who Sam Houston was. And it'll be about his life, his place in history, and him as a Mason. So that should be a good talk. So if anybody else has anything to offer, feel free. This is your chance. We're getting ready to wrap it up here. Thank you all very much for coming. If you're not already a member of the group, in the chat, there's the links to the lodge, Facebook, the lodge website, my email, if you're not already on the mailing list. I'll just go around if anybody else has anything they want to offer before we break.
Thank you, Chris, and hope we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thank you, Chris.
Well done, mate. You did good.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. Rob and Clint, I want to thank you all. It was great having the both of you.
Thank you.
That was great. Hope to
Oh,
see
yeah,
you again.
This is just a father and son team, so
Okay. Well,
we
this
do
is good.
things together as Masons.
I like it better, both of you there, instead of being on your own camera. That way y'all can talk to each other and interact with us. It worked just fine.
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
right.
All right.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Two,
Thank you, Brother Devore. All right. Anybody else?
then for
Go ahead.
for me, I'm also the Right Illustrious Grand Master of the Grand Council of the state of Montana.
Oh, excellent.
And
Let's
my
talk
father
about that.
here is my father's here is my grand historian for the year.
Oh, cool.
So
We stick together quite a bit.
Well, we'll have a future talk about the York Rite. We do not have councils in Virginia and West Virginia.
Oh, wow.
really?
Really?
Yes. And we'll talk about that another time, but I'll give you a little teaser. 2 of the degrees are folded into the chapter, and we have to have someone from North Carolina come and confer the Super Excellent Master degree on occasion.
Wow.
So we are a little bit different.
Very interesting.
I think we could have a talk about Royal Arch and the York Rite at another meeting, maybe go into the different.
What's a super excellent master?
There are 3 council degrees between the chapter and the commandery in American York Rite Masonry. So there's a separate body for the council degrees, and in Virginia we don't have it at all. We folded them into ours. We'll go into it another time.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
I think that'll be fun. I think that'll be a lot of fun talking more
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
the York Rite. Yes. I have plenty of ideas for topics. So if any of you know of anyone who wants to be a speaker or you have an idea for a topic, please let me know. And hopefully they will not fall. I think this one fell a little flat, but we made the best of it. We just didn't have enough people involved. It would have been more fun with more people, but everyone here gave their best effort and I appreciate it. But really 10 people just didn't go the way I wanted it to. It wasn't to the standard I wanted. So, but I do appreciate everyone here who gave it your best, and you all answered, and we had some great answers, and learning about what are they again, Brother Clayton?
Ramps.
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 Like a ramp, like a motorcycle
RAMP.
ramp. Very
Ramp.
interesting.
Ramp.
Okay.
Yeah.
So while we all learned a little something. Okay, this will be out on YouTube later. If anyone watches that, I don't know. But thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate it. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. It's a 3-day weekend here in the States. We have President's Day on Monday, so I'm off for 3 days. Hope you all are too. So y'all have a great weekend. Talk to you all soon.
See you next week.
Bye.
Here.
Bye.
Take care.